Ever find yourself like completely blanking on where you put your keys?
Oh, yeah.
Then you can remember like your best friend's 5th birthday party.
Right.
Like our brains are so weird.
Yeah.
So today we are diving deep into all things memory
Yes.
with Charan Ranganath's latest book
Yes.
called NDW Why We Remember. And we're going to uncover why some memories stick around while others fade away. And I gotta say, some of these insights are pretty wild.
They are really interesting.
Yeah.
You know what I find so fascinating about Ranganath's book is that he kind of flips the script on how we view memory.
Okay.
Instead of asking like why we forget things,
Right.
he asks why we remember anything at all.
Oh, that's a good point.
It's subtle,
Yeah.
but it really shifts your entire perspective on how memory works.
It totally does.
Yeah.
It's like instead of our brains being like a faulty filing cabinet,
Yeah.
it's more like they're master editors, like choosing which scenes make the final cut.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
and to really illustrate this point, he shares this personal story that really resonated with me.
Okay.
He used to film all of his daughter's birthday parties. You know,
Wow.
capturing those milestones we all cherish.
Right.
But here's the thing.
Okay.
He only vividly remembers one of those birthdays.
Oh, wow.
Even though he like meticulously documented all of them,
That's so interesting.
the others are kind of a blur to him.
Really? I would think that would be like etched in stone.
Right.
You would think.
You would think those would be so important.
Mhm.
And that's exactly the point.
Okay.
It highlights how memories, they're not just recordings of events.
Mm-hmm.
They're very intricately tied to what our brains in the moment deem important.
Right.
And sometimes that doesn't necessarily align with what we think we should remember.
Right. Or what we want to remember.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
Okay, so it's not just about storing the information.
Mm.
It's also about this constant filtering and prioritizing process.
Exactly. Okay. So Ranganath talks about memory as like a network,
Right.
not a filing cabinet.
Yeah, can you elaborate on that a little more?
Yeah. So instead of picturing your brain
Okay.
like a static filing cabinet,
Okay.
imagine it as a bustling city,
Okay.
and information travels along these neural pathways,
Yeah.
like roads connecting different parts of the city.
Mm-hmm.
The more you travel a particular route,
Yeah.
the more established and
Yeah.
familiar it becomes.
Right, so the more we access a specific memory or a thought,
Exactly.
the stronger those connections get.
Exactly. It's like our brains are constantly like paving these neural highways
Right.
based on what we use the most.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is where it gets kind of funny.
Okay.
He uses this analogy of a political election.
Neuroscience and politics.
I know, right?
I like it. It's interesting.
Yeah.
So imagine different groups of neurons, like political parties,
Okay.
all vying for influence.
Okay. Got it.
When you learn something new,
Mm-hmm.
these neuron coalitions that agree with that information
Okay.
strengthen their connections, while those that don't kind of weaken their ties.
Wow.
So it's this constant process of rewiring
Okay.
based on what information aligns.
So it's like if a certain neuron coalition gets their way enough times,
Yes.
then that piece of information becomes ingrained.
Exactly.
It's like you can't get that catchy jingle
Yeah.
or that annoying slogan out of your head no matter how hard you try.
Exactly. It's those neurons
Wow.
just firing away.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So this kind of brings us to brain plasticity,
Yes.
which I think we've all heard of.
Yes.
And we always hear that like our brains are more adaptable in childhood,
Right, which is true.
which is true.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah.
Ranganath stresses that adult brains are still incredibly plastic,
They are.
especially when it comes to like higher order thinking and stuff.
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think that's such a key takeaway for like your listeners.
It's like don't ever underestimate your brain's ability to change and grow,
Right.
no matter what your age.
It's never too late to learn a language or pick up an instrument
Exactly.
or just do something completely new.
Exactly. Try something new.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So speaking of adapting,
Yeah.
Ranganath tackles kind of a big one that I think we can all relate to
Yes.
in our like fast-paced world.
Especially in today's world.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
Multitasking.
oh, yeah. Multitasking.
Tell me about it.
He does not mince words on this topic.
Yeah, right.
He's like, multitasking is essentially overloading your prefrontal cortex.
Which that's like the command center of our brain, right?
Yes, it's like the command center
Oh my gosh.
that's responsible for your focused learning
Yeah.
and decision making.
Tell me about it.
And he's just like, it's basically destroying your brain.
I am like the queen of multitasking. Like, I'm the worst.
Like, what are you doing right now?
Let's see, I've got like email, social media, texting,
Mm-hmm.
all while trying to like work.
While having a conversation.
Yeah, it's so bad.
Ranganath would be like, this is not good.
Yeah.
Like, think of it this way.
Okay.
Imagine trying to write a novel,
Okay.
compose a symphony, and plan a dinner party
Right.
all at the same time.
Yeah, I know. Something's got to give.
It's just too much.
That's a good point.
Your brain is like,
So with so much coming at us all the time, how do we even begin to organize all this information
that is a great question.
without multitasking?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, how do we handle this?
Right.
Well, he says that it's really helpful
Okay.
to understand the different systems our brain uses
Okay.
to make sense of the world.
Okay.
So he talks about the difference between episodic memory
Okay.
and semantic memory.
So two very different ways our brains store information.
Exactly.
Okay.
So episodic memory,
Yeah.
think of it like your own personal highlight reel.
It's storing those specific events and experiences that you've lived through.
Okay.
It's powered by your hippocampus.
Gotcha.
And it gives you that feeling of like, oh my gosh, I'm right back there.
Mental time travel.
Yes, exactly. Like that memory of your daughter's birthday party,
Yeah.
that would be episodic memory.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Exactly. Now, semantic memory, on the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
hand, is more like your brain's encyclopedia of knowledge.
Okay.
So this is where we store facts, concepts,
Right.
general knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
It's less about the when and where and more about the what of
Okay.
information.
Okay.
So for example, knowing that birds can fly,
Right.
that's your neocortex,
Oh.
hard at work.
Okay, so episodic is like, I can relive a specific scene
Yes.
from my life.
Okay.
And semantic is more just like accessing information.
Like a database.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if our brains are so good at storing this information,
Right.
why is it sometimes a struggle to remember things?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Like, why do I always blank on someone's name
Right.
right after I meet them?
Like you just met them, shake their hand.
Yeah.
And then 2 seconds later,
Gone.
yeah.
It's the worst.
So Ranganath actually, he addresses this head on.
Okay, good.
One factor that he highlights
Yeah.
is the role of stress.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Stress can be both a memory enhancer
Interesting.
and a disruptor.
Oh, that makes sense.
Okay, so on one hand,
Yeah.
you have those like really high stakes, really like emotionally charged moments.
Right.
Think like acing a big presentation or that near miss traffic accident.
Oh my God, yes.
Those tend to really stick with us.
Yes, they do.
It's like our brains are hardwired
Yeah.
to remember those experiences that trigger
Right.
strong emotional responses.
Those really intense
Yeah.
experiences.
Yeah.
So then why do I freeze up during exams?
That's because,
Or when I'm put on the spot?
right, because stress can also interfere
Okay.
with the functioning of our prefrontal cortex.
So it's like a double-edged sword.
Exactly.
Gosh, okay.
It's like a double-edged sword.
That's so interesting.
So when we're stressed, our brains go into that fight or flight mode,
Yeah.
and all the resources get diverted away
Oh.
from those like higher order thinking processes,
Right.
like memory retrieval.
So it's like trying to access a file on my computer
yeah.
when like everything's frozen.
yes, when the system is totally overloaded.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like buffering.
Ugh, it's the worst.
I know.
Okay, so stress can make our memories stronger, but also harder to access.
Exactly. It's all about the context and the
Oh.
situation.
Wow.
Now, he also talks about catastrophic interference.
Alex,
Have you heard of this?
I feel like I have, but can you refresh my memory?
Yeah, so this is where it gets really interesting,
Okay.
especially when we compare human brains to artificial intelligence.
Okay, this should be good. I like where this is going.
So imagine you are teaching a computer about birds.
Okay.
Initially, you feed it information that all birds can fly. So the computer, based on this data, makes this logical connection.
Right.
Birds equal flying creatures.
Birds equal flying creatures. Got it.
Okay, but then you introduce the penguin,
Okay. Right.
a bird that cannot fly.
Right.
This throws a wrench in the entire system.
That's funny.
The AI, in trying to reconcile this new information, might overwrite its previous knowledge
Really?
and conclude that no birds can fly.
Wow.
That's catastrophic interference.
Wow, so they just completely delete the old stuff?
Yeah, essentially they're like,
Or the new stuff?
get rid of that old file. We don't need that.
Oh my God.
You're putting in this new information.
That seems like a huge design flaw.
It is a design flaw, and it's something that AI developers are really trying to figure out how to overcome.
Interesting.
But here's the fascinating part.
Okay.
Humans, thanks to our two-system memory,
Yes.
can handle these exceptions without erasing previous knowledge.
That's good.
We can hold both the rule, birds can fly, and the exception. Penguins are birds, but they don't fly simultaneously in our minds.
Okay. I'm glad our brains are a little more
nuanced.
Yeah, a little more nuanced than that.
More complex than a computer.
Than AI,
Right.
which I appreciate.
Sometimes.
Okay, so speaking of nuance,
Yes.
Ranganath also kind of challenges this idea
Yeah.
that memories are these perfect video recordings of the past.
Still not like a video recorder.
Yeah, he
Well-
argues that every time we recall a memory,
Yes.
we're not just replaying it.
You're essentially reconstructing it
Yeah.
every single time.
Wow, and he says those reconstructions can be influenced by our emotions,
Yes.
our beliefs.
Your current beliefs,
Wow,
even information we're exposed to
Right.
after the event happens.
after the fact.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So they're not set in stone.
So it's less like our memories are set in stone and more like they're these malleable sculptures that are constantly being molded and reshaped.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
And that's kind of scary
It is a little scary,
to think about.
but also really cool.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because it means that like we're constantly learning
Yeah, that's true.
and adapting.
So it's not just about what we remember,
Right.
but it's also about how those memories then go on to shape our understanding
Exactly.
of ourselves and the world.
Totally.
Okay, so this brings us to reality monitoring,
Yes,
which sounds like a very important thing.
it is.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes, so this is essentially the process our brains use
Okay.
to distinguish between real memories. So things we've actually experienced and imagined memories.
Okay.
Things we've maybe thought about or dreamed about.
Right.
Or even things people have told us.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So is there any way to get better at that?
That is a great question.
Like, how do we sharpen those reality checking skills?
Well, Ranganath suggests
Yeah.
focusing on the sensory details of a memory. So real memories, those rooted in actual experiences, tend to be much richer in sensory information.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, so think about like sights, sounds, smells, textures.
Yeah.
Think back to that birthday party we were talking about earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Can you almost smell the cake?
Yeah.
Hear the laughter?
Mhm.
Feel the excitement in the air?
It's coming back to me now.
You see,
Yes.
those sensory details,
Yeah.
they make it real.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Imagine memories, on the other hand.
Yes.
They probably lack those specific details.
They lack that visceral
Yeah.
kind of feeling.
Wow.
So if you're ever unsure
Yeah.
about whether a memory's real or imagined,
Yeah.
try to tap into those senses.
So if I'm trying to remember if I locked the front door,
Yes.
or if I just thought about locking the front door.
Exactly.
Okay.
Instead of just picturing the door in your mind,
Yeah.
try to remember like the feeling of turning the key,
Oh,
the sound of the deadbolt.
that's a good trick.
Yeah.
Okay.
The more sensory details you can conjure up,
Yeah,
the more likely it is that you're dealing with a real memory.
that's a really good tip.
It's also helpful to consider the source of the memory.
Okay.
Did you experience it firsthand, or
Right.
did someone tell you about it?
Right, like my family and their stories.
Exactly. And if it's the latter,
Yeah.
it's always worth considering the reliability of that source.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
They might have some biases in there.
Exactly.
So it's like we have to be our own memory detective,
I love that.
piecing together all the clues.
You got it.
Okay. So Ranganath also talks about some of the more challenging
Yeah,
aspects of memory, like trauma,
he does.
which is a heavy topic.
It is a very heavy topic.
But I mean, obviously very important to talk about.
Absolutely. He talks about how traumatic experiences
Mhm.
can create incredibly vivid
Yeah.
and intrusive memories.
Oh,
people.
I'd like those memories are just etched in their minds,
Yes.
haunting them.
And it makes sense because your brain is trying to protect you
Yeah.
in the future.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
Yeah.
it can go into overdrive.
Right.
You know, it can kind of get stuck.
Right, because our brains are for healing and adapting.
Exactly. And it's this amazing capability.
Yeah.
But sometimes
It just doesn't let go.
it doesn't let go and it can get stuck.
Wow.
And that can lead to conditions like PTSD.
Right. And I mean, it's not just the emotional impact,
Right.
but Ranganath talks about how trauma can actually change the way our brain
Exactly. It changes the way your brain
processes and
stores information.
So it's like actual changes happening at a neurological level.
Exactly.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
that's why it's so important to seek professional help
Right.
if you're struggling with those traumatic memories.
Absolutely.
Because healing is possible.
That's so important to remember.
Yes.
There is hope and there are resources out there.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Ranganath also talks
Right.
about the role of dopamine in memory formation,
He does.
which, we always think of dopamine as like
Because
it's the feel-good chemical.
right.
But Ranganath, he digs a little deeper.
Okay.
He argues that it's really about motivation,
Okay.
seeking rewards,
Mm-hmm.
and learning from our experiences.
So that feeling of satisfaction that we get when we solve a problem
Exactly.
or achieve a goal,
Yes,
that's dopamine.
that's that dopamine.
Reinforcing those behaviors.
Exactly. It's like a little reward system.
So this can be good,
Yes,
but it could also be bad.
it can also be bad.
Okay.
Because when we get stuck
Right.
in this cycle of just chasing
Right.
those dopamine rushes,
It can lead to some addictive.
Exactly. Think about gambling or
Yeah.
the slot machines.
right, where it's like you get those unexpected rewards,
Yeah, those unexpected rewards.
but they might not always be the best for us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's about finding that balance,
Right.
right? Enjoying those dopamine rewards,
Yeah.
but also being mindful
Yeah, be mindful.
with how they might be influencing our behavior.
Absolutely.
Okay, so dopamine plays a huge role
Yeah.
in shaping our behaviors and our memories.
It dies.
But what about those times
Yeah.
where we're not actively seeking out those rewards?
Yeah.
Like those aha moments
Exactly.
where you're like, oh my gosh.
Yes, he talks about that too.
Okay, good.
He talked about the power of curiosity
Okay.
and how that can unlock
Yeah.
our brain's true potential.
It's like our brains are naturally curious.
They are.
Yeah.
They want to learn new things. They want to explore. They want to
Yeah.
make sense of the world around us.
Yeah.
And it's not always about an external reward, right?
You don't always get a trophy
Right,
for being curious.
Right. It's more about that intrinsic
Okay,
satisfaction of learning something new.
Yes. Have you ever
Yeah.
stumbled upon a fascinating article
Oh, yeah.
or gone down a Wikipedia rabbit hole
All the time.
and you're just like, wow, I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's your curiosity.
That's so cool.
And the best part is that
Right.
research actually shows
Oh, really?
that when we're genuinely curious about something,
Yeah.
we're much more likely to remember it.
So it's like our brain's built-in learning hack.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so curiosity is a muscle.
It is.
We can strengthen it with practice.
Absolutely.
Okay, how do we do
There
that?
suggests actively seeking out new experiences,
Okay.
challenging your assumptions,
Mm-hmm.
and asking why a lot.
So instead of sticking to our same routines,
Exactly.
we should be actively expanding our horizons, right? So explore new hobbies,
Yes.
expose yourself to different perspectives,
Mm-hmm.
ask those questions you wouldn't normally ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The more we do that,
Yeah.
the more those connections fire.
It's like we have this incredible tool
We do.
at our disposal.
Yeah.
And we just have to learn how to use it.
Exactly. It's all about tapping into that sense of wonder
Right.
and exploration.
Love it. Okay, so curiosity is a powerful force,
It is.
but there are other factors that can also impact our memories.
For sure, sleep.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
Sleep is my superpower.
Really?
It is, but when I don't get enough of it,
Yeah.
my brain feels like it is fried.
Oh, Ranganath actually, he dedicates a whole chapter to sleep.
Do you really?
He says that it's not just about resting our bodies.
Right.
It's crucial for consolidating memories,
Oh, wow.
moving them from short-term to long-term storage.
So those all-nighters I pulled in college were not doing me any favors.
Probably not. While those short bursts of intense study
Right.
can be helpful,
Yeah.
it's really during sleep
Okay.
that our brains get to work.
So it's like a little learning party.
Yeah, they're reorganizing, categorizing,
What's called?
strengthening those connections.
So quality sleep is key
Yes.
for a sharp memory.
It's not just about the quantity.
Right.
It's about the quality.
So a dark, quiet room,
Yes.
maybe some calming music.
a nice little sanctuary for your brain.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
To rest and recharge.
Now, here's another piece of the puzzle
Okay.
that he explores it in the book.
Okay.
The social dimension of memory.
Oh, that's interesting.
Our memories aren't formed in a vacuum.
Right. They're constantly being shaped.
They're shaped and reshaped.
By our interactions with others, the stories we share, the cultures we're a part of.
Our families, our friends.
Yeah.
All of it.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
So it's not just about what we remember individually.
Right.
It's how those memories become like intertwined.
Yes.
With the memories of the people around us.
Think about like family stories.
Oh, yeah.
Those get passed down through generations,
Yeah.
often embellished or
Right.
slightly altered
Of course.
with each retelling,
Yeah.
but they still serve as this powerful way
Yeah.
to connect with our past
Right.
and understand like our shared history.
It's like those shared memories become part of our identity. Like a
Exactly.
way of understanding like who we are and where we came from.
Exactly. And that's just one example.
Right.
Our social connections really influence what we remember,
Yeah.
how we remember it,
Yeah.
and how we make sense of our own life stories.
It's like our individual memories are like threads.
Yes.
And then together they create this really intricate tapestry
That's beautiful.
of shared experiences.
Yes.
Okay, so as we kind of wrap up our deep dive
Yes.
into the world of memory here,
Yeah.
I want to leave you with a final thought-provoking question
Okay.
from Ranganath.
Hit me with it.
He asks if our memories are so malleable,
Okay.
influenced by context and emotions,
By other people.
even other people.
Mhm.
What does this mean for how we form our sense of self?
Whoa.
Yeah,
That is a good one.
right.
Yeah.
And like if we could intentionally shape our memories,
Yeah.
would we?
That's a great question.
It's a lot to unpack.
It is.
Yeah.
It really makes you think about the power
Yeah.
and the responsibility
Yeah.
we all have.
And shaping our own narratives.
It's a tough one.
It really is.
It's a question without easy answers.
Right. But it's definitely a question worth pondering.
It is.
Yeah, so like if we could, would we want to? I don't know.
Right. It's almost like a sci-fi movie.
It really is. And it kind of speaks to just like the incredible complexity
Yeah.
of the human memory system.
It's amazing.
It really is.
And the fact that it's constantly evolving
Right.
and adapting
Yeah.
and basically shaping who we are
Right.
every step of the way.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
That's wild. Okay, so we're going to take a quick break
Okay.
and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the show.
We're back.
So before the break, we were talking about curiosity
Yes. We were deep in the world of curiosity.
and how it's like this really powerful learning tool.
It really is like this secret weapon.
Okay, so we talked about curiosity.
Yes.
We talked about sleep.
Yeah.
What other factors can impact our memories?
Well, we've talked about how our memories aren't formed in a vacuum.
Right.
They don't exist in isolation.
Yeah.
They're constantly being shaped and influenced by the world around us.
Right.
And one of the biggest factors in that is our social connections.
Okay, can make sense.
Our relationships with other people, the experiences we share, the stories we tell each other. All of these things play a huge role in shaping what we remember and how we remember it.
So it's like our individual memories are kind of like puzzle pieces.
Yes.
And when we come together with other people,
Yeah.
we're basically putting those pieces together
it's-
to create this bigger picture.
A bigger picture of our shared experiences.
Exactly. And that shared history then goes on to shape our individual identity.
Precisely. It's like a collective memory bank.
Right. And it helps us understand not just who we are,
Right.
but also where we come from.
Yeah, and where we fit in.
I love that. Okay, so as we wrap up our deep dive into why we remember,
Yes.
is there anything else that stood out to you?
One thing that really stuck with me
Yeah.
is Ranganath's emphasis on the idea that memory isn't about perfection.
It's not about like total recall.
Exactly. It's not about remembering every single detail of every single experience.
Right.
It's about remembering what matters
What matters to us.
as individuals and to us as a society.
That's a good point.
And I think that's a really empowering message
It is.
because it means that our memories aren't fixed.
right.
They're not set in stone.
They can change and evolve
They can and they do.
as we do.
Precisely.
Wow. Okay, so I think that's about all the time we have for today.
That went by fast.
It did, but it was so interesting
It was fascinating.
to really just dive into the world of memory
Yeah, to really explore all the different facets of memory.
because it's something that we all have.
Absolutely. It's something that connects us all
Right.
as human beings.
So to our listeners, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Yes, thank you for listening.
And remember,
What's that?
your memories are powerful.
They are.
So cherish them,
Yes.
question them,
Absolutely.
and most importantly, never stop learning.
Never stop exploring.
Until next time.
It's your body.